wherever you are. Welcome to the broadcast today. Hit go live also on the YouTube. So we got Periscope and YouTube. Hello, welcome everybody. This week in history. So we're ready and we'll get going. So thank you for joining. Let me remind you that you can subscribe and follow me across social media, and I'll give those at the end as well. But there's YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, YouTube, there's Periscope, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Gab, and Patreon. So if you enjoy this show and the information that I share, then please consider being a sponsor through Patreon. Okay, so this week in history, let's get to our slideshow. Maybe. Slideshow. Changing the slides for me. So I only have this little thumbnail and I can't see what it says, other than I know that it's the shot heard around the world in Lexington, which is an area northwest of Boston. America is considered, the birthday is 1776, July 4th is when we celebrate Independence Day, but really the whole American Revolution is noted as starting on April 19th, 1775, with the shot heard around the world. Okay, next up. Why is it? So it's changing on my computer, but it's not changing on the screen. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, this is the first time that I've used this broadcast, that I'm using the television like this for you to see. Okay, a little bit old school, okay? So double click on it. No, that's not working. Okay, let me. Ooh. I got it figured out. Okay, we're good to go the rest of the show. Let me move this a little bit so you can. Yeah, you don't need to see the logo all the way. It's better that you see the TV than the logo. I'm okay with that. All right. 1897, the first Boston Marathon was held. Did you realize it was that long ago? Wow. So that very first one had 15 runners, and they started the race, and only 10 made it to the finish line. Women were not allowed to enter the Boston race officially until 1972. Which is very interesting because this year's winner of the race was a woman. She did it in 2 hours, 39 minutes and 53 seconds, whereas you can see McDermott, the very first one. So really, I mean, there's somewhat of a limit of what the human body can do. Is even since 1897, more than 100 years, it's only decreased by a few minutes as far as the fastest the fastest time to get across. Now, I mentioned that the women were not allowed to enter the Boston race officially until 1972, but it's noteworthy to mention that in 1967, Catherine Switzer, and this very famous photograph, she entered like with K. Switzer, so they didn't realize she was a woman, and they gave her a number. The year before, another woman just kind of like ran it by not having a number. She just kind of joined it, right? But Catherine literally had a number. She was entered into the race, and once they found out that she was a woman, everyone was angry, so angry. And you can see here where people were trying to push her out of the race physically. And so she's kind of a bit of a champion for being the first woman to do that. And then following in 1972, they actually changed the rules so that women can now officially participate. All righty, so moving on to 1995, we're still on April 19th. The truck bomb explodes in Oklahoma City. So this was quite a big deal in America. 168 people died, hundreds more were injured. There was a preschool, nursery, childcare area. This was a government building, so government workers were there. The FBI had a lot of offices there. And Timothy McVeigh, now this is the, as we say in today's news, official narrative, is that Timothy McVeigh parked a Ryder rental truck loaded with diesel fuel and fertilizer, made the whole truck into a bomb outside the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. And so that it's kind of considered the first home terrorist of America. All right. Moving on to April 20th. In 1841, the very first detective story was published. And so who did that? If you don't recognize this picture, it is Edgar Allan Poe. And his story was The Murders in the Rue Morgue. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because rue is like French for street. So it's like Murders in the Street Morgue. At least that's how we spell morgue in English, for the place where the coroner examines and does autopsies on dead people. Now, if the French pronounce it a different way, sorry. Hey, Sansal. Oh, nice to see you back again. Hi. So we're going through things in history. We're on April 20th, and in 1999, the Columbine massacre occurred. Now, this was when Dylan McDermott and his friend killed 13 people. And this was like, now, unfortunately, these school shootings, my friend, I love you. Thank you so much, Sansal. School shootings are happening way too regularly. You know, it's not a good thing. But back when this happened at Columbine, it had like never happened before. And in that case, there was somewhat of a case for like bullying and everything. Phone number, friend. No, I'm not going to give you my phone number. Okay. So moving on from Columbine, we're going to April 21st now. So what happened in history? Well, according to legend, in 753 BC or BCE, Rome was founded. And no phone number. Not like you want to call Cambodia anyway. So Rome was founded, and the legend goes that ancient Rome was founded by two brothers, and they were like demigods, and that was Romulus and Remus. And one of the legends goes with Romulus killed Remus so that he could name the city after himself. You can research that if that interests you, all the Greek mythology and Roman mythology. 1838. Naturalist John Muir is born. So normally I would have this like in a celebrity birthday. No, Sansa, not giving you my phone number. So normally in John Muir, and when I have a birthday, it's in celebrity birthdays. But this is like pretty significant for history as well. So I thought I'd throw it in. This picture right here is a picture of John Muir and Theodore Roosevelt, the United States president, and they are at Yosemite National Park. Well, it wasn't a national park at the time. They were there to look at it and to say, oh my gosh, this place is so beautiful. We can't let any dams happen or anything to destroy it. Old young girl. Thank you, Sansao, for the compliment. Okay, so they decided to create the national park system. So John Muir was essential to that happening. He is considered the father of national parks. And then this other picture right here is John Muir with a tree. And I've found this particular photo very interesting because looking at the bark of that tree, it's not a redwood. It's what I always grew up calling a butterscotch tree. Now, I don't know the official genus of this tree and what its official name is, but the reason that we called it a butterscotch tree is because if you get a piece of that bark, you can kind of see how there's like pieces like this, like a puzzle all fit together. If you take off a piece of that bark, it smells like butterscotch. Because I grew up in this part of California and would spend my summers at summer camp in these very woods. Okay, so moving forward, 1918, the Red Baron was killed in action. Now, if you've never heard of the Red Baron, you need to know. That's why I put it in here. He was a notorious German flying ace in World War I. And the other day, I was actually waiting for your broadcast, and I was up like at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm looking in a or whatever, and you know, what is that? Airplanes. Thanks. And so I'm refreshing, and then the next time I refresh, it's like your scope just ended 7 minutes ago. I'm like, ah. This morning I didn't even wake up until after 7 a.m. So, but yeah, I keep missing your scopes, and I apologize for that. Anyway, back to, I believe we're on April 21st, 1918. During World War, Miriam is my real name. So the Maven is my persona, and Miriam is my real name. Yeah, I know. I hate when that happens. Well, I'm glad that you were able to catch my scope today, and as well as thank you everyone on YouTube. Bear with me. World War II, German flying ace, officially credited with 80 air combat victories. And I cannot talk about the Red Baron without mentioning Snoopy. And Snoopy versus the Red Baron started in 1965. Not necessarily on this day. So moving to April 22nd, what happened? Well, in 1954, the McCarthy Army hearings begin. So this was kind of like the end of McCarthyism. Comments that end in 2 or more together are bots. Bots. We hate it when we get invaded by bots. Okay. I know sometimes bots repeat comments, and but that one had like question marks at the end, so I thought it was like maybe a real person. Okay, so McCarthyism, if you don't know what that is, there was this guy McCarthy. I think he was a senator because it's Senate hearings seems to come to mind, and he aggressively interrogated anybody he thought was communist. And he blacklisted people. Hollywood was really affected by this. And so this entire era was called McCarthyism. Well, then the army, in these hearings that began on this day, or well, on April 22nd in 1954, these hearings are credited with the political downfall of the anti-communist senator. So this was like the beginning of the end. And also they were televised, which was quite a big deal at the time. That guy owes you money. There you go. Okay, 1978, going to a little bit of pop culture here. The Blues Brothers made their world premiere on Saturday Night Live. I don't know if any of you remember that. I was watching Saturday Night Live in 1978. Every Saturday night, couldn't miss it. So the Blues Brothers, they went on to make a movie and everything, and there's quite a bit of pop culture icon. They are an icon, the Blues Brothers. If you don't know who they are, research it. All right, April 23rd. We have 2 days left in our week of history. 1954, Hank Aaron hits his first home run of Major League Baseball career. Okay, so who's Hank Aaron? You know, I'm doing this for the sports fans, right? Because I'm not all that big in sports, but this was a big deal historically. So Hank Aaron hit his first home run on this day in 1954. Well, 20 years later, he became baseball's new home run king when he broke Babe Ruth's longstanding record of 714 career homers. Okay, so you had Babe Ruth with 714. Then you had Hank Aaron. By 1976, he had reached 755. So he broke Babe Ruth's record. And then you had Barry Bonds break that record with 762. They are the only 3 players in the history of baseball to have over 700 career home runs. All right, so there's your little bit of sports history. April 24th, the last day of our This Week in History. In 1916, the Easter Rising began in Dublin, Ireland. So it was on an Easter Monday in Dublin, Ireland. It lasted for 5 days. It was an armed uprising against the British rule. Willie was next with Willie Mays had almost 660. We got some baseball fans out there. 660 home runs. Career home runs. Now, I don't remember exactly what Joe DiMaggio did, but there was like one day he came up in This Day in History when I was doing it on the radio. And so I did a little bit of research, and it was quite amazing what Joe DiMaggio did. It wasn't career home runs, obviously, or he'd be listed here, but it was something else that he did. And so there's quite a few baseball legends out there if you like sports. Anyway, the Eastern Great Britain was not nice to Ireland. And there's a case that could be argued that an actual attempted genocide was going on with the whole potato famine thing. It wasn't the weather that there were no potatoes growing. They had plenty of potatoes, but the British confiscated them all. So the Irish people were left with nothing to eat. So that was like the whole potato famine thing. And this, of course, is following the potato famine. The Irish were just fed up with it. They weren't going to take it anymore. And of course, then when we're talking about the Easter Rising, it was like the first time the Irish stood up to the British rule in an organized way, which then later you get into the 60s and 70s and you have the IRA and a lot of the violence that happened with that. And then finally, I mean, if there's a model for peace happening, the fact that the IRA and the British were able to come to some kind of agreement where, of course, Britain still has North Ireland, but the main part of Ireland became an independent country. I mean, what a great role model for peace. If they could do it, other countries can too. And finally, our last one, back to some pop culture. 1982, Jane Fonda did her first workout video. It was released. It went on to become the top-selling video of the time, and it absolutely started a fitness craze. So you can look at this picture, and you can see here's Jane Fonda, and she's on a mat, and then she's got other people behind her that are also doing the workout, and of course there was music, and she's doing exercises to the music and stuff. This had never been done before. Richard Simmons didn't exist. Millennials don't even know who Richard Simmons was, but the Tae-Bo, any kind of exercise to music with mats, with the leader and the people behind also doing it. It started with Jane Fonda in 1982. So thank you so much for watching This Week in History. I've got, we just had the Khmer New Year. And so now, and hello, Azagona, whatever. We just had the Khmer New Year. So for me, this is the beginning of a new year. So I've got an entire program set up for you guys, where on one day you get This Week is in History. Yesterday we had the quantum research, a little bit more esoteric in what we're talking about. We're also going to have a celebrity birthday day, where we go through the celebrity birthdays of the week. We also have wacky holidays of the week. So there's a lot planned. Let me see what tomorrow is. Oh, travel. So the idea is that I have to go somewhere and do my broadcast from someplace, so you can see traveling somewhere. Okay, so I got to plan that out. Where am I going to go tomorrow? I don't know, but it'll be fun. And then, of course, Saturday will be the headlines, the weekly headlines with our deconstructed available, where I take a story, take it apart, I get more in depth with it. So it's like headline, and one story that we really get into, deconstruct it, take it apart, get some deeper research. That is where I teach the critical thinking skills. Okay. So meanwhile, please like, follow, subscribe across the social media. I am the Maven 2017. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, and Gab. If you don't know that little frog, that's Gab. A lot of people, they're kind of getting away from Facebook and things like this. They're looking for alternative social medias, and Gab is one of these. It's kind of rising, so I'm on there as well. And then Patreon. I would love to be able to do this full time for you guys. And then also maybe, I've got the old school thing going on here, but we could do it slick as well. If I have a person to pay to do that for me. So anyway, I am going to end the YouTube. Bye, YouTube.